Familiar Wilson's Media. Relationships are the story.
You are made of meat, my friend, all the way down.
The following podcast uses words like and also. If you're not into any of that shit, then now's your chance.
3, 2, 1.
Run.
Super familiar with the Wilsons. Yeah.
Welcome to Super Familiar with the Wilsons. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Josh. Amanda, I want to tell you a story.
Yes.
It's a very short story, but it's one that I just saw on the social media.
Okay.
A Native American named Joseph Medicine Crow was fighting in World War II when he completed the 4 tasks required to become a war chief.
Okay,
right?
yes.
In his tribe. He touched an enemy without killing him.
Okay.
He took an enemy's weapon. He led a successful war party, and he stole 50 horses from a German camp.
That's a lot of horses to steal covertly.
Yes. So it got me to thinking about like names. Now our names are just like a collection of words or no, not a collection of words, a collection of letters and sounds or whatever. And, we don't pick them unless you change your name. But there are some cultures who name according to like something that happened to the family, or maybe like you earn a name and then like that name describes you.
Yes.
So if you could rename yourself in a way that describes who you are, what
Oh
what
Lord,
would your
I
name
don't
be?
know. She who needs coffee before she has this conversation. I don't know. This is not a thing we spring on people. Clearly, though, because I know you know what you want yours to be. So go ahead.
I actually don't. This literally is something that I just opened and said, this is an interesting conversation, like how we define ourselves. Now, I would come up with a name for you. Your new name or your defining name would be...
Tread so carefully, my friend. We are just like this new year is a baby. It is an embryo. Please think about how you want your 2025 to go.
Your new name would be Amanda, She Who Vacuums.
I do.
And this is not a sexy nickname either. This is like, I feel like when I think of you, I'm thinking, oh, she's either about to vacuum something or she just vacuumed, or listen, she just, like you coming up the stairs, I stopped and I turned around and I sat down because you were vacuuming up here and I freaking hate that noise. So that would be your name, Amanda, She Who Vacuums.
Yes, because...
You got something better?
No, and if I'm not vacuuming or about to vacuum, I'm thinking about how I need to vacuum. That is the other thing. No, that's true. That's true. I have a robot vacuum. I have 2 regular size vacuums, and I have the little handheld vacuum. And that's because the dog loses his hair everywhere, especially on the stairs. And I never notice it until it's like piled in the corner. And it annoys the mess out of me. I'm sure it has something to do with OCD tendencies because of generalized anxiety. Thank you for pointing out all of my issues on the podcast.
I just realized why you fell in love with me, though.
Why?
Bald.
That's right.
I don't shed.
You do, though. You just had a beard hair fall off into my coffee.
And I saw it and I fished it out with my finger.
You did.
So how's that coffee going for you?
Those fingers have been. I actually think it might have been an eyebrow hair. It was bigger than because your eyebrows are like occasionally try to leave your face. So anyway, he who is bald but has mysterious falling hair. I don't know what to name you.
Yes. Well, there you go. Well, we'll think of it. We'll think about how we define each other and how we define ourselves. And like that's a big theme, I think, going into 2025 for me is defining myself and defining this podcast. One of the struggles that I've had as we've been doing this for 4 years is how to define this show, because we're supposed to have a niche. We're supposed to have like a category, right? This is how you get discovered. And just being a comedy podcast, I mean, that's not drilling down enough. Plus, I'm not quite certain how funny we are. So it's always been for me about how do we define what we do. And I think that I've got it. But before I tell you what I've come up with, or at least the idea of what I've come up with, what would you say?
We are mildly amusing, and we talk about it's just like a slice of life podcast, I think. But sometimes we talk about parenting, and sometimes we talk about aspirational things like self-care and mental health and all that stuff. So I don't know.
I think it all goes back to me thinking about how I define myself. And let me rewind this a little bit here.
Are we going to be a vacuuming podcast?
And absolutely freaking not are we going to be although you think that we could get sponsors. Super familiar with the Wilsons. We suck.
You suck. Go ahead.
So I spent this last year, if I had to define it, and I didn't start this way, but it turned into this, is just me trying to deal with like mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
And just trying to be a more healthy feeling person emotionally and all of these things. And so I've done a lot of writing, and we've talked about this, I believe, on the show before. Have we talked about the journaling?
I don't remember.
So I've been doing some journaling and positive self-talk and all of those things. And I did it, I think I actually started last year, at the end of last year. And then I dropped off a bit, and then I started to do it again. And that showed me the power of journaling, of writing for me. It helps me process. But all of the stuff that I was doing was very forward-looking, like very aspirational, like I want to do this, or I want to be this, or whatever. You know, I want to be a patient, kind person. I want to be loving. I want to be in the moment. All these things would be things that I would
want to be.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I've never delved into my past ever. I avoid my past. I don't like looking at old pictures.
I know.
It's just a habit, I guess, that I've got into. Now, I've had a pretty crappy past, especially in my childhood.
I think it's self-preservation.
Probably is. But I don't know that one can move forward and do the things that you aspire to do unless you deal with all the junk that's in the foundation of the bedrock of your life, because that foundation will always be uneven until you try to deal with it or address it. Okay. Which I've never done. So this past week, or the last couple of weeks, I've sat down to do my writing, and instead of writing aspirational things, what I wanted to do in the future, I started to write down memories. Now,
Yes.
I have a really crappy memory.
I'm really surprised that you started this, because you do avoid like going into things that are hurtful or confrontational, or even if that's within yourself. So I'm really amazed and surprised that you started this.
Right. Well, part of it too is just me wanting to exercise that memory muscle to see if it's a thing that I can develop. But mostly it's because I realize that I have to deal with all of this mess and this garbage in the past. And a lot of it I don't remember. Like there's giant gaps, right? And so I'm writing what I remember. And as I'm writing, it's interesting because I'm making realizations about how I was treated, and things that were said to me that weren't kind, but I didn't realize it in the moment. It's really weird to me to be writing about a certain something. Okay, well, I'll give you a specific situation. This is something I've already told you, but I want to be as specific as possible so that the listeners understand. When I was a kid, it was me and my dad. He was a single man, and I lived with him. And we moved down to Grand Cayman Island because he said, he was an older gentleman. He's like, I'm going to retire. I'm going to go move down to this tropical paradise. And then, all of our problems are solved and everything's going to be great. We went down there, and after a year or so, I would guess, we moved back to the States. Now, he always told me that the reason why we moved back to the States is because it was a little island. We didn't have TV. All we had was the radio. And I would always complain about how I couldn't watch TV. And I'm like I think I'm late single digits at this point, 9 or 10 or something like that. And so he would always tell me from then on, oh, we lived on this great island, then we had to move back because you didn't have TV. Now, as I'm processing that, and as I'm processing kind of the whole time, and also realizing what kind of guy he was the type of guy who would romanticize something, and he would then do it and realize that very quickly that it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and then he would become very disillusioned and he'd pivot to something else. And I'm thinking about the situation that we were in on this island, and I'm quite certain that's what happened, that he got bored. He's like, this isn't what I thought it would be. I'm going to move back to the States, because he did end up moving back to the States, and then he worked for another 15, 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what he told me.
Right. No, he put it on you because it was easier for him.
So as a dad, I'm just processing what a shitty thing that would be if I told my kid
You're like 8-year-old
something
kid.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just it's very fascinating to me that I've had these memories floating around, but because I've never processed them, I've never connected dots. And so that's an example of some dots that I've connected. And I'm in, my early 50s, and I just made a realization about something that happened to me when I was 8 or 9.
Well, I mean, I've always been really impressed with you in that you did have a very, really difficult childhood and a very dichotomous relationship with your dad, but really difficult. But that's never showed up in your parenting.
It shows up every. I'm not as patient as I could be.
Right, but you're not verbally abusive to these children,
no.
I mean, but you broke that cycle though. Like that's generational trauma that you've broken.
So this year is going to be a year, or however long it takes, of me writing these things down and figuring them out, and then also figuring out, okay, well, now what? Because along with making these connections, these intellectual connections, is like there's an emotional component to it too. Because as a kid, for an example, I always felt terrible about, oh gosh, we had to move away from this place that he loved. So now I still carry that, and I got to deal with that, which I have been. And so this year is going to be that, and that's going to change in my mind, that's going to change the definition of me. But I do think, and also that's why I asked about defining this podcast, because I do think that I've established what this podcast is about and has always been about. Very specifically, this podcast is about Amanda and Josh and their relationships. So it's our relationship with each other, but then it's our relationship with our friends that we bring on the show, or the people that we meet as we're walking down the street. No, or the people that we meet online that we have on, like Chris Barron, or Travis Atrio, or any of these other people, Michael Clater, that we've had on, right?
Yes.
So that's what this is about. This podcast is about defining ourselves through our relationships.
Oh, that's interesting. Good for you.
It's interesting too. Like, it's particularly an American thing. So I'd like to hear from our European and our British folks. If this is a thing that happens, you go to a party or you meet someone, and the question is always like, well, what do you do? And you take that, and then you define the person in your mind based on what, oh, this guy's an accountant. He must be an egghead who's really boring, or, whatever. To my accountants out there, I don't think this. I'm just telling you what I've heard.
That's what the people on the street say.
So what if we were to define ourselves by our relationships? And I don't mean necessarily that we get our identity from our relationships, but I do mean that instead of defining ourselves by, for me, like I'm an artist and I also work with senior citizens, it would be, no, I'm a dad, or I'm a husband,
mm-hmm.
or I'm a sometimes good friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to desperately climb into a society that defines ourselves in that way, rather than, I'm a CEO.
Yeah.
Lord, I don't want to be CEO, especially right now.
You really don't.
So there you go. So
I like it.
More to come on that. So let's very smoothly transition into the fact that you don't know about us. So I did remember that this was something that we started last week. Yeah. What is a fact that the people out there don't know about us individually, and maybe even something that we don't know about each other? Do you have one?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
The top of my spine, where it meets my skull, is not curved. Everybody's is, typically a typical spine is curved, so your skull sits on top of it. Mine isn't. Mine's straight, and it puts a lot of pressure on that, and it kind of chips away at it. So that's why I have a lot of neck and shoulder issues.
Okay, well,
See, last week you gave me crap about the fact that I was all like, I met new kids and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I like plants or whatever it is you said. I don't even remember what the thing you said about yourself was. What was it?
Doesn't matter. I don't remember.
So now I'm going with more like, I mean, unless you've seen an x-ray of my vertebrae, there's no way you'd know that, but it's not super interesting. So there you go.
But you've told me that. I knew that about you.
Right, but this is not about you. This is about the listener. I'm defining my relationship with the listeners right now. And my body.
But I have questions though. So
where'd my coffee go?
So it's in your hand.
I couldn't see it. It was when the microphone was covering it. It wasn't in my hand when I asked, to be fair.
So does your neck hurt all the time?
I mean, for the most part, yes. Yeah. I mean, so when I was like 14, my mom and I were in a car accident. We were rear-ended. We were sitting on a county road to turn left. She was dropping me off at a friend's house for like a sleepover or whatever. And the car behind us didn't even stop, like going like 50 miles an hour, just slammed into us, right? So I had really bad whiplash, but my mom was very much into homeopathic, natural healing. So we just saw a chiropractor for this. And I'm not saying that I'm not like whatever. A chiropractor was a very big part of my growing up. But their solution for this was they would put my neck in traction. And so how they did this was I would lay on, this is one thing you did not know about me. I would lay on this table. It was kind of like a doctor's office table, right? But they would put my like head off the end of it. And then they took like basically a weighted metal ball that had a chin strap attached to it. And they would basically put the chin strap, so I'm laying flat, right? They put the chin strap on my chin and then hang the ball down so that the ball and gravity were pulling my neck the other way. Maybe this is what broke my neck.
And they thought that would bend you into place?
I have no idea, friend.
No. Okay. Awesome. Quackery is what that is.
Yes, yes, neck and shoulder issues are, and that's where I carry I think a lot of people carry their tension there anyway, but yeah, always neck and shoulder issues. What's the one thing that we do not know about you?
I used to live very close to hell.
Oh, in Grand Cayman. Okay.
Yeah, there is a place in Grand Cayman, and it is hell. It's a little town or province or whatever it is, and they have a post office. In fact, it might be the only thing that there is in hell is hell's post office. And you can go and you can post a letter from hell or get a letter from hell. So I used to live right near hell.
All right, metaphorically and physically.
Yeah, exactly that. Also near the turtle farm. Have I told you this?
Oh yeah, I used to live near a chicken farm.
Oh, that's depressing.
And when the wind was blowing a certain direction, it was.
Oh yeah, I wonder which smells worse because turtles have a bunch of turtles together, held in a pool, have a particular funk that I'm not sure how to explain.
Yeah.
But the wind would catch that boy, and tropical paradise would disappear.
Yeah, I bet.
No, it was. It was not good.
There was no tropical paradise where I was living in Polk County, Florida. But yeah, we also looked at a house once that. My parents were interested in maybe buying. It was like a parade of homes thing like we went to, but it was down the street from a slaughterhouse, and that also was not good, like a cattle slaughterhouse. So the joys of Polk County, yay! But before we can move on with this podcast, I really, really have to ask you a question because I cannot stop thinking about it, and I'm not going to be able to focus on anything else. What the flip is it's the people that you meet when you're walking down the street. What song is that?
These are the people in my neighborhood.
In your neighborhood. Where did that come from? Was it Sesame Street?
Probably. I don't remember. Yeah, probably Sesame Street.
Because it's the only thing I've been able to focus on since you said those words.
Well, welcome to the party.
Okay, anyway, go ahead. You may move along now.
Well, because the song that's been trapped in my head, like for weeks, has been hopelessly devoted to you from the Grease soundtrack.
Which is so funny because I do not know you to be a Grease fan. We've never watched it together. I don't know.
Well, first of all, the little girl had a production that incorporated parts
true.
of Grease in it. And you made me listen to the entire soundtrack as we were driving somewhere once. You don't remember this?
No.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know what was happening because I rarely let you control the radio in the car.
This is true. Even when it's my car, it doesn't matter.
So clearly I had done something wrong. And as penance or punishment, I'm not certain which.
Well, it's coming back to haunt you right now.
It is. So I listened to the song this morning, hoping that if I did that, it would flush the song out of my head. It did not. Did not do it. Thankfully, the song is only 2 minutes 30 something long, and so that's a relief. But I've just got that damn song stuck in. Even now, hopelessly, even now.
It is Sesame Street. So I had to look it up. I'm listening to you,
You're
and
not
even now,
fucking
but
listening
it's
to
Sesame
me.
Street. I had to look it up.
You know, it's a myth. This whole multitasking thing is a myth.
Oh,
right?
I know.
There's no such thing as being able to effectively multitask.
No, you can't.
You're supposed to focus on one thing, get that done, and then move on to the next thing.
Yes. So for work, the giant university in which I work has an HR training called the myth of multitasking or something like that, right? And I took it and multitasked throughout it, but there was a lot of statistics, right? About like I was doing all kinds of other things while I was in this training about not multitasking. But there are a lot of statistics about decrease in productivity and whatever. And so one of their strategies was like set yourself a 15 or 20 minute timer to focus on one thing. Like if it just feels too much to be able to like just knock one thing out, like because your brain's thinking about other things, then set like a time limit and be like, I'm going to do emails for 10 minutes and I'm going to do this for 10 minutes and kind of rotate it instead of trying to, because it's really hard for me because a big part of my job and one part of it that really hasn't been central in the past year or two, I've been doing more like project management, is writing courses. And it's very, very hard for me to get into a writing mode and then have to stop and focus on other things. Like that flow is really cut. I am going into a year in which the next 18 months, I have to write basically the equivalent of like 7 dissertations. So I am a little concerned about my ability to focus right now because for the past 18 months, I've not been doing that. So
have you heard about this Pomodoro technique thing, which is what you just described?
Isn't that an Italian restaurant here in town?
It is, but it's also a time management thing that was developed. You break your work into 25-minute intervals separated by short breaks, right?
Yeah.
Each interval is known as a pomodoro, which is the Italian word for tomato. Didn't know that. After the tomato-shaped kitchen timer that the person who created it used as a university student. And so this was developed in the 80s, but I'm only hearing about it now, I guess, because, things wax and wane as far as popularity or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's what you just described. Yeah. 25 minutes. Bam, take a break. Now, I always, when I get involved in my work, like I'm a manager, and so it's very difficult for me to be able to sit down and just concentrate on one thing for 25 minutes.
Because you're going to get interrupted by all these
other things. But that's why I like going in early, because I do get to do that. And occasionally when I'm manager on duty on the weekend, I get to do it on the weekend too. But in general, it's very difficult to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But that's what you just described. It's a thing.
Yeah. And I am very grateful because leadership has realized that trying to write and do these other things is very difficult. And so there's been a lot of kind of restructuring and rethinking how teams are formed. And so while I am still staying a manager at a high level, my day-to-day coordination I've been able to hand that off to somebody else. And so that will really free me up. But I have a hard time because I do not have an office anymore. Like I am in basically a call center. Why are you smirking at me?
Oh, I'm a manager on a high level.
No, I'm able to manage at a high level.
My name is Amanda She Who Vacuums, and I'm a manager on a high level.
I'm sorry. Did your vision for this podcast for this year involve you doing it solo? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Self-love, baby.
That's right. Well, listen, there can be lots of things that you do solo this year, should you so choose. My Lord, I meant a high level like overview, not I am a high level like executive. That's not what I meant. And you knew it and you're being difficult on purpose. Anyway.
So this weekend was our 10 years anniversary.
Basically, I work in a giant call center is what I'm trying to tell you, though no one's on phones, but it's big cubicles and it's very, very difficult to get a flow going when there's all this stuff around you. And I'm fairly certain I have undiagnosed ADHD because I can get distracted very easily. Although I'm moving to a window seat, which I'm very excited about because I am a manager at a high level. They've now given me a window seat. And I was talking to the person who's going to take the desk that I'm at, and I'm on the end of a row, so people are walking by me all the time. And she is concerned because she does have diagnosed ADHD, and she's concerned about being able to focus. And I told her that I'm really not distracted by the people around me, that all of the distraction that happens is self-initiated. So I think she'll be okay.
Yeah, I have a big window, and I really appreciate it. It really helps not to feel like I'm stuck inside a box or whatever.
And you have a door. I have a big window.
That's right, baby. As far as middle management goes, I'm the middleist, so don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh, middle management I actually think might be the worst.
I mean, it has its benefits, though, and I'm not complaining about them. So, it was our 10-year anniversary on December 28th.
It was. It's over.
We escaped to Saint Petersburg, Florida, and I have some observations I'd like to share about our trip to Saint Petersburg.
Okay.
It was lovely. Enjoyed it. Beautiful city. But things that I noticed. We went to a mall in St. Pete.
Yeah, they still have those.
And I don't know if you saw this, but the security kid, did you see this security kid? Did I point him out to you?
No.
Oh, you laugh? Not funny, because the security kid was all of 19-year-olds and probably 19 pounds.
Yes, if they don't give him guns, though, do they give him tasers?
He had a bulletproof vest that he was sticking out of, right?
It's almost spit my coffee. Well, okay.
And a gun.
Oh, no, they should not give him a gun.
Yes.
The
well, he's
bulletproof
okay
vest
because he has a
is
bulletproof
to protect
vest.
himself from his own gun. Yes.
Yeah, from himself.
Got it.
So that was really weird. That felt really dystopian to me.
Well, also, there was a weird police car just circling like 2 rows in the mall. So maybe
Yeah, that was
something
weird.
was going on.
That was weird. Well, yeah. So let's send in Detective Skinny, and he'll get to the bottom of it here. Something I noticed in St. Pete, I saw several very tall women, like 6'2", 6'3". Did you notice that?
No.
Lots of tall women. What is this where WNBA players go to retire or
Maybe.
something? I was like, and I'll tell you something, as I'm looking up at these women, I'm realizing how uncomfortable that makes me.
It's for a woman to be taller than you?
Yes, because I've never, like, I'm not threatened by her power or anything like that, just because I've never seen that before. Very rarely do I see a woman taller than me.
You have volleyball games. All those women are taller than you.
No, not all of them. Some of, like, 1 or 2 of them are, but they're over on the court. They don't come up to me and like look down on me. So I'm sure that this says something about me, but now I know what it's like to live as you.
Yes, everybody's taller than me.
Like you, how tall are you?
I'm 5'2"3/4.
Have you ever met a fully grown, an adult human male that's been shorter than you?
No.
You never have?
No. The men in my family were short. Like my brother was like 5'6". Like I think the tallest was my oldest brother, and he was maybe 5'11". My dad was short too. So the men in my family are short. I'm interested about what's going to happen to the 8-year-old because your boys are really tall. You're 6 foot, but the boys are like 6'2". So I hope it evens out somewhere for him and he's not tiny. No, I think the closest I could get to an adult male being my height is like if I were to hang out with like male gymnasts.
Yeah. But how do you think you would react to that?
It would be odd to me. It would be odd. Like I've thought about that. Like I always preferred to date taller guys. I don't know like if it was like a feeling of security or safety or
No,
whatever.
It's just a percentage thing.
Hush.
Basically, the only people open to you would be Danny DeVito and like, I don't know who else is short. And the dude from Game of Thrones, I suppose. But
you're a jerk. No, I used to have a really big crush on Blaine Wilson, who was a gymnast in the 96 Olympics. And I think he's like 5'4". It would be strange to me to like be able to kiss somebody and not have to like be on my tippy toes or have them bend down. Like just an even, like, that would be weird.
Well, we'll do a thing when we're done is I'll get on my knees and
really?
and you can see what that's like.
All right.
So a couple of things that I noticed as we were wandering around. We went into a museum and we went into an Ansel Adams exhibit, right?
Yes.
Ansel Adams is a black and white photographer. And he shot.
I know. I was really confused.
He
by
wasn't
that
biracial. He shot black and white
photography
photos, whatever. So we went in there and we found a nice little display. It wasn't huge. It was just like a medium
size. It was like
size
a visiting exhibit. Like it,
right.
Yeah.
But as we went in there, I saw a father and son
Oh God.
And the son had to be like all of 5-6 years old. And
he was older than our 8. He was older than our 8-year-old.
Well, not very much older though. He was young. He was so young.
He was
particularly
maybe like 9 or 10.
maybe like 8 or 7. And the father was explaining the plot to that movie. I think it's called 127 Hours or something. It's something else. Of the dude who was trapped, who was wedged between a boulder and a cliff face, who had to saw his arm off, right?
Yes.
He was explaining in detail the plot of this movie to this small child as they looked at the picture of like the Grand Canyon or something. And I'm just like, what is going on here?
Did you see the kid's face? The kid was like so like
horrified.
Horrified, confused, like why? And then the dad like walked away, or I couldn't tell if it was the dad or the grandpa. Feels like a grandpa thing to do, like maybe like not knowing.
Wait a second. So the gentleman explained this and then walked away from the kid?
Well, as they're walking away, he goes, "Isn't that an interesting story?" And the kid's just still standing there behind him, like. I heard it first because I came over to you and said, "Are you listening to this?"
But what if this?
What if he doesn't know him?
Yeah. What if it was just a stranger? What if it was like a docent from the museum?
It's just the kid's looking at the picture. He's like, "Interesting story. This is where that guy from that movie got his arm." I mean, I realize it was a true story, so like I understand that it really happened. I don't think this kid needed that story.
No, it's so weird. Oh my goodness! So then that happened, and that added a pinch of surreal. And we didn't even go into
It wasn't the Dolly,
the Dolly Museum.
Yeah.
Our last day, we went into a boutique area.
Yeah,
down
like a little
Central.
strip of
down
shops.
Central Street. And I don't know if you noticed this, but as we were walking, and we went like maybe like I don't know 5 square blocks,
Yeah.
like wandering around. Everywhere we went. We could hear in the distance beeping.
Oh.
Did you hear that?
No, I tuned that out.
Everywhere beeping, beep, just beep.
What was it?
I don't know. I think, because I looked it up online to see if anyone else had noticed this, what I think it was is I think that the e-scooters beep.
Oh.
I think that these
Interesting.
e-scooters that you rent, I think it's possible that if you leave them somewhere, they will beep. Like a
homing beacon,
right,
so someone
something.
comes to get them?
It had to be that. But no one else, you didn't notice it?
No.
But everywhere we walked. So it wasn't just like it was contained to like, oh, this was one thing. It was like you'd hear a beep and then you'd hear another in the distance and then another
Maybe
in
they're
the far.
speaking to each other.
No, I don't. Are communicating. It's
Yeah.
all Starlink. It's all Elon's fault. But it was the weirdest thing, and it was as if it concerns me that everyone was tuning it out because
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
as if this little electronic beeping sound is now so natural to people, just as natural as if it was like crickets or frogs in the distance. You know,
Yeah.
like that's the urban frog.
Yeah.
You know, the urban cricket is going to be the e-scooter beeping for someone to come find it.
But see, there are a lot of e-scooters where I work downtown, and they don't beep.
Okay, then I don't know what the hell it was.
Well, maybe those beeped.
I wonder, or it could have been. Do you think it was the parking meters? Do they beep?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't
know,
think
dude.
they do.
It was weird. Now I'm
Maybe
concerned
this
that
was
no
in
one
your
else
head.
heard. Yeah,
Right.
see, that's the thing. Maybe.
Well, when you
maybe
looked it up, did people say anything about it?
I couldn't find any reference.
Right.
To it. Yeah.
Well, I was all weekend trying to figure out the mystery of why there were so many old people at our hotel and kept trying to Google that, and it wasn't like really working for us. So we stayed at a very lovely hotel right by the water, right near the Dolly Museum, which if you've not been and you're in St. Pete, it's a great museum. But there were like really old people, like walkers and e-scooters and people who looked like they weren't in the best of health, and they all seemed to know each other. So I was trying to figure out, is it a convention? Is it like a once a year thing? Like, what is this? And we eventually, I didn't want to ask the front desk, but thankfully you asked the valet and we got to the bottom of it. It is a senior living facility burned down, which is tragic, but they all moved into the hotel. So it made more sense. But I was really trying to figure out why are there so many old people at my hotel was not giving me any search results.
No, I don't think that it would. Another thing that I noticed is we came across at least 2, if not more, people in separate situations that were talking crap about stuff they didn't know about, or I perceived that they didn't know about.
Are you talking about the people at breakfast?
Well, yeah. This one family was sitting across from us, and the girl said, the youngest girl said, And by the way, New York is just so dirty.
Yes, yeah. New Yorker's dirty. She does
New
not
York
like
is
dirty.
just so dirty.
And the rats in the subways.
And there's rats in the subways. Now, and then she continued on talking derisively. Derisively?
I think it's derisively, but maybe it's derisively. I don't know.
She started talking smack about New York and other things about New York, right? And I have visited New York several times, and it might not in places be the cleanest place you've ever seen, but it is also such a fun, lovely place to be.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what are you doing?
Well, the genesis of that conversation was that they live in Chicago. I don't know if you caught that whole thing.
I did not.
And so I got the whole, like, so it was a French family. This girl is not French, but she's engaged to the French son. Like, I have worked all of this out.
Oh my God.
My people watching skills are finely tuned. And they live in Chicago because it's where he's doing his residency. And it was at the top of his list, but they have friends from college that are friends from medical school that are doing their residency there. And she went to college in Chicago, but she still doesn't like Chicago, but she likes Chicago better than New York. So I could be an anthropologist.
Yes, or a detective, or just like a tremendous gossip, which is, I guess, the real
what
point.
I'm doing right now.
Yes, that's
I'm
the real
gossiping
point
about
of this.
these people.
Super familiar with the Wilsons. Find out all of the gossip on people you don't know and don't care about. And then the other thing I saw was we were walking through this 5 square block boutique district or whatever, and people were walking by us, and they said, Miami in general just needs more places like this. There's nothing to do in Miami. I'm like, have you ever even glimpsed Miami on the map? How could you possibly say that there's nothing to do in Miami? I was blown away by that. Like, we just came back. I grew up in Miami, and Miami has developed a great deal. But even back then, there was just endless things to do. And now we just came back from Miami. What an amazing place.
Yeah.
What an amazing place filled with just things that you could not even imagine, some that you wouldn't want to do there. I could not possibly imagine in my wildest dreams stuff that you'd be in Saint Petersburg, see and say, oh, Miami,
needs more walking
needs
streets
more of this,
with
needs more of
shops.
that. Oh my gosh. But it's this whole thing about people be open-minded. Don't judge places you've never been to.
I got the impression that Miami people actually live in Miami.
No, they don't. They don't. You know how I know? Because of what they said.
Okay.
Don't judge places you've never been to. Also, expand your willingness to be open-minded, right? So go to these places. You think New York is dirty? Well, go to New York and be proven wrong and be willing to be proven wrong. And then come find me in the world, Chicago girl with the French people or whatever the hell, and tell me that you were wrong as wrong could be, sitting on your throne of wrongness. Find me and tell me that, because please.
Well, I think that's the key. I think that they've been there. It's not the be willing to go there. It's be willing to be proven wrong. It's the be willing to change your mindset is really the key here.
Now, there are plenty of places that I've judged and then been proven wrong and been absolutely thrilled that I've been. So I'll give you an example. We were driving to... No. We went to Mobile, right?
Yes.
For a dance competition, right? We went there on purpose. I was not...
You intentionally went to Mobile.
Well, I wasn't looking for it. Anywhere in Alabama in general wouldn't have been a place that I would have chosen to go to, just because, because I've never really spent any time in Alabama. My impression of it isn't great. So I imagine that going to Mobile, Alabama, we drive in and see like 3 chicken crates stacked on top of each other holding a sign that says "Welcome to Mobile, Alabama," and the welcome is spelled with a U, right? And there's like shell casings all around, and so that would have been my expectation going to Mobile, and we went, and what an amazing city. What a beautiful city. We stumbled into a really cool farmer's market, craft fair type of thing, lots of art all around. And I was so happy to be proven wrong about Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
Now, I just saw one slice of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I acknowledge that. I'm sure that town, like every other town, has its unpleasant places and its dirty places or whatever. But my eyes were opened, and I was happy to be proven. And I'd like to go back. I would love to go back. So have you ever been to a place and been surprised and pleasantly surprised by it?
I don't know. Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I mean, one place that I wasn't super like into going to, but I went and spoke at a conference in Philadelphia, and I was there by myself, and I was only there for about 24 hours, but really fell in love with it. Very, very cool city. So maybe, but it wasn't like I was like, oh, Philadelphia is going to suck. Like I didn't think that, but I just didn't think that I would like it. One of the things that I love is when you've spent some time, and this happened in St. Pete. I was in Austin earlier this year. Austin was a really cool city. But when you're in a place for a few days and and it's a walking city and you start to realize where you've been, like where you actually are. Because when you first get there, you're like, how do I get to this place? And, where's my hotel and location of this? And then when you start to kind of put the city together and make connections of like, oh, that's here, and I'm here. And you start to understand in this tiny little way, that's a really cool feeling to me. That's what, I felt like I was accomplished in New York when people would approach me on the subway platform and ask me which trains they needed to take. And I could tell them, like when I was spending some time in New York. So that to me is cool. Like you need to go and be there for a few days and get if you can stay in a walking part of the city. Like I know it's cheaper to stay on the outside, but it's really lovely to be able to get the feel for a city.
Yeah, no. And I felt that way about New York as well, and St. Pete actually, because we've been in that area now a couple times. Let's see what else about this weekend. Well, we went to this really nice Asian themed restaurant. We dug into the food, very excited about the food, and I found a wire in my chicken, didn't I?
Yep. We had orange chicken. Josh, and I could tell, like you were making a face as you were chewing. I was watching you do it. And I thought, oh, maybe there was gristle or like something and you pulled out this copper wire. It was not what I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
The manager came over and he was so apologetic, and I just wanted him to go away. He took the meal off of our bill, but I was thinking, I didn't want to eat anymore, and I certainly didn't want a replacement because you've eaten one copper wire, you've eaten them all. But he wanted to replace. He
was like, "Can I get you anything else?" And we're like,
"No, I don't want to eat."
Okay,
but I just want him to go away. I probably would have felt differently because how I handled it was I called the waiter over and I made sure to say it in such a way that no one at the other tables would hear. Because number one, it's not the waiter's fault. And number two, I don't want to ruin everyone else's experience from my bad experience. But I wonder how I would have felt different if I'd have bit into it and it would have stuck me.
Oh, God.
Stuck my tongue or stuck. Because it didn't. I guess I was lucky enough to bite into it. It was flat and I just pulled it out.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was an herb or something initially. But I wonder if I would have just gone off if I'd have actually been hurt by it. Can you imagine? Oh, man, I would have been pissed. I probably would have just gotten it up and just walked the hell out. I'd been so pissed and so frustrated, but then that also would have been fighting with my non-confrontational personality. Yeah. And I'd just get up and go, and you'd be like, what is going on?
I'd be sitting at the table with your blood trail going out the door.
Yeah. And then it'd lead all the way back to the hotel room.
Yes, excellent, good. No, and he kept saying, "Was like, can I get you more?" Because it was the chicken dish, right? Like you had scallops and they were fine. We left the rice in the refrigerator at the hotel.
I threw it out.
I was like, I just remembered that. The veggie fried rice was great. And then this chicken, and he was like, can I replace it? And no, I don't want to eat anymore. And he was like, can I get you anything else? And I almost said, yes, more drinks. Like that would be the thing that would make that better because it would
oh, that's funny.
It would sanitize your mouth or something. I don't know.
Funny. I don't know. I'd love to actually hear stories from other people, like stuff that they found in their food.
I don't know that I want to know those things. So what it was that it was he said he figured out what it was, and he didn't need to tell us. It wasn't the fry basket. It was there was a wok chicken, and it was the scoop, like the wire scoop that you pull the chicken out of the wok with, and it was frayed. And he said he threw it away.
Way, he's like with a sense of accomplishment. I threw it away. It's like, dude, you had this thing that was frayed enough for a whole ass piece of this wire to come off in my food, right? Damn thing should have been replaced before. Don't be proud that you fixed it now. Like, I appreciate being apologetic, but don't be like carry this sense of accomplishment that you've finally gotten rid of this equipment that could have led to a giant lawsuit. Not from me, of course, but from another person who, is confrontational. But an interesting thing, though, at this restaurant, it was an Asian-inspired restaurant, but they did have potato, what's it called?
Milfoy.
Milfoy, which I guess is potatoes that are like chopped. How is
so
it?
milfoy
Milfoy
is a pastry term, and it's really thin, crispy layers of dough, right? So what they did was kind of like really thin layers of the potatoes together and then fried, but the outside was really crispy and you could kind of peel it away, but the middle part was, you used the word stodgy, which is such a Paul Hollywood Great Bake Off reference. But yeah, it wasn't great I just wanted the outsides of it.
But it got me to thinking, because you don't usually associate potatoes with Asian food.
No, you don't.
It got me to thinking, and I realized that almost every restaurant that exists has their own version of a French fry. A French fry.
Yeah.
Because that would be their version of a French fry. It's fried potato. We went to this Greek place in Tarpon Springs on our way back, which, by the way, so Amanda says to me, dear listener, she says, I want to stop by Tarpon Springs on our way back because it's this really cool Greek fishing community.
I've never been. I said I wanted to see it. Right.
So she's in charge of the maps, right? The little map app.
It's just north of where we were going.
And I said, get me there. So we're driving. We turn, it's starting to chuck it down rain.
It was pouring, yeah.
So at some point, I just started to laugh to myself at this situation. Because like, she wants to see this site or this place, and we're not going to be able to see anything because it's raining. And that's pretty funny to me because I'd rather just be home. So you turn us into a neighborhood, and the map says you are here. There's an elementary school to my right, to my left, there's houses. I'm like, here it is. Here it is, Amanda. See it?
We found it eventually. Hush.
So we went into this tavern because there was no parking in the what seemed to be the downtown area. So we went out of downtown to try to reclaim this wasted time. And we went into this Greek tavern, and they had Greek themed French fries, like Greek French fries.
Twister fries, that's what they called them.
They were so good.
They were
but
really
it goes
good.
to that thing. It's like, I wouldn't have thought that the Greek restaurant would have had a version of French fries, but they did. It was delicious. They had spiral cut them, but large spirals, not like curly fries. And they tasted to me like they were twice fried.
Yeah,
because they were extra good and extra crispy. Then they put feta cheese on them and had a thing of tzatziki sauce.
They were drizzled with olive oil, which you love.
Oh my God,
they had
so good.
They had Greek oregano on them, which was lovely, and then the feta, and then with the tzatziki. They were so good.
Is there a style or a type of food where you'd be shocked that they would have a French fry type dish? Because mine would have started and stopped with Asian. Well, we found that now.
East Asian, because Western Asian, like Indian food, they have potatoes and curry and stuff like that. But East Asian, right? That would have, yeah.
Right, which is what that restaurant was with The Wire.
Yeah.
So
I think that's it.
I can't think. So the ubiquitous food, and maybe that's because there's kids, and they're like, we got a kid. Do you think that every restaurant has a kids menu of sliders or chicken fingers and French fries?
Probably. But that's only an American thing, right? Like American kids menus. When we were in the UK, the kids' menus were like shepherd's pie or meat pie and or Sunday roast. Like it wasn't. We could get a hamburger for the 8-year-old.
But that's what they feed their kids over there.
That's what I was gonna say. But it's not this idea of mac and cheese, chicken fingers, sliders is a very American thing. In that, in most countries, kids just eat what the adults eat. Yeah. And that's what they would have when we go do pup food. Like it would be just smaller versions of whatever was on offer for the adults. This whole catering to children. And I'm pointing the finger at me because we have such a hard time with food allergies and with dietary preferences as far as like vegetarian or whatever in this family, that I tend to make separate meals for people. And that is not how I grew up. My mom was like, this is dinner. Have fun.
Yeah, and then that's another memory that I wrote down, by the way, in my book of memories. My dad doing the whole thing of like, I wouldn't eat stewed tomatoes. And so he said, okay, this is now the food you're going to eat. It's going to stay on the table. And this is the food that you're going to eat the next time you're at this table. I am here to tell you that would not have passed any food safety regulation. And I wish I'd have known that then, because I would have pulled that out.
Did you ever eat this? Did you then finally eat the stewed tomatoes?
I absolutely did not. The stewed tomatoes were disgusting to me as a kid. I don't mind them now, but back then they were disgusting. I said a phrase in the Greek tavern in referring to coleslaw. I actually said this to the bar lady, right? I said, well, there's coleslaw and then there's coleslaw. You know what I mean?
I don't think she knew what you meant.
I did not know what I meant.
Okay.
I don't know where that came. That was someone else. That was the inner me coming out and saying some stupid stuff. So anyway, we finally made it home from our weekend. We had a lovely time. It's been 10 years, Amanda Wilson. 10 years.
I know.
What do you have on tap for the next 10?
I know. We're not doing this because I tried to do this when we were sitting out at the pier and I was having a glass of Prosecco. You were having a beer. I was observing the woman who hates New York. And, you know, it was a lovely day. We're at the water, beautiful. And I said, okay, let's set some goals for the next 10 years. And what did you say?
I responded negatively because I just wanted to experience the moment.
The shorthand was F that. No, it was OF, basically, but you didn't say the letter. You said the full word. And I'm like, okay, well, there we go. So no, I'm not telling you what I've got on tap for the next 10 years. Keep you waiting.
There's a podcast that's actually called Save It for the Podcast. Did you know
do they
that?
just not talk to each other?
I guess not.
Is it a married couple?
I refuse to listen to it because they've stolen my idea. But yeah, no, there you go. So anyway, happy 10 years anniversary.
What? My name is Amanda.
Amandaversary. Amandaversary. It's my Amandaversary.
No.
And now it's time for Refined Gay Thoughts with Refined Gay Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, it's been a while.
Jeff is our friend actually, he's my friend.
No, he's
Let's
my
be
friend,
clear.
hush.
That I've known for decades.
I've known Jeff for a decade.
And he likes to send us his thoughts on what we've talked about. And it's been a while since we've heard from Jeff. So let's see how Jeff is doing. He wishes us a happy new year, which is Happy New Year to you and to everyone out there. He says that I have no plans for New Year's Eve that involve me leaving my house, but I am thinking about having 6 or 7 of my homosexuals over. My friend, what?
I don't know, just by that. It's a funny term of endearment. I like it.
We're down with the not going out on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, no one likes that.
No,
it's not safe.
People like it. Well,
no one in this house like it.
So, there was an incident in downtown Gainesville last night.
Really?
Yeah.
The
Someone
shooting?
got hit by a car. 1 hour into the new year, and someone gets hit by a car.
Did they die?
Gainesville. I didn't look. To be honest, I didn't look.
Yeah.
I'm trying to limit my awful news intake, but that is awful news. Gainesville in general.
It's not good for pedestrians.
It's not good for pedestrians, but you get a certain time of night, and downtown Gainesville is just I'm very uncomfortable there. I shouldn't say that because I've got friends with businesses down there. It's just that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
So moving on. I'm absolutely in for staying home in New Year's Eve. I've always been that way. The last time I remember really going out for New Year's, and the reason why I remember it so vividly in my mind is because this following thing happened. I was over at my friend Chris's house. Have you met Chris in Miami?
Yes,
you met
we
Chris.
had dinner with him.
We had dinner with him. I was at his house. Have I told you this story?
Is this when you injured his child?
Okay. All right. Back it right up. Okay. I didn't injure his child. His child was... Okay, I'll tell you the story. So we were out playing with remote control cars, as you do, as adults. And his 8-9-year-old kid is running back and forth with the car as I'm piloting it, right? And he's jumping over the car back and forth, from side to side of the car. And I'm like, maybe he shouldn't do that. I turn the car. He jumps. He lands on the car. Of course, he falls because he's off balance. He hits his hip. I hear a noise.
Oh, God.
Now, he's not close to me.
Yeah.
He's from here to the other side of the house.
Oh, wow.
Outside in the car. Or in the
dark.
In the dark with the car. And I hear this noise, and I
Okay.
could not even describe it to you. But what it ended up being is his femur, is that the big bone?
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Breaking.
Nope. Was he screaming?
Oh, he was screaming. And my friend was like, he'll be okay. Just come in the house.
Walk it off. Rub some dirt on it.
Right,
You're fine.
right. But bless, we were all,
Drunk?
okay. Whatever. Clearly the kid wasn't, or else he would have been able to walk it off. And that's what happened. Now,
Did they take him to the ER?
Eventually, yes. But come to find out, like, you can
Die from a broken femur.
from
Yes.
shock.
Yes.
Because it's like the largest bone in your
yes.
body.
Yes.
So I don't go out on New Year's Eve
No,
now.
you almost killed a kid.
All right, take it easy. Take it easy.
Well, is the kid okay? Was
Oh,
he able
yeah,
to walk?
he's
Is he like a
fine
grown
now.
adult with functioning limbs now?
As far as I know, all his limbs are functional. Although so he was in a body cast, and he had to be on like a little cart that they would roll around, like
Aw.
those carts that you roll under your car to change the oil.
Yes.
Like he had one of those at home, and he was scooting around like a turtle. And he had a from the waist down body cast. And damn it, if they didn't write, look what Josh did to me on the cast.
No. That's awful. Oh God, was the kid mad at you?
No, I don't know. It was all in fun. It was
So now I understand why you don't like it when our children jump around.
yeah.
Because you
So anyway.
lose your mind when the 8-year-old's jumping around.
Back to Jeff and his homosexuals.
Yes.
My friend Darwin is visiting from Flagstaff, so I will probably gather the gaggle of gays together. Jesus, try to say that 10 times fast. For cocktails. Speaking of cocktails, my gays did gather together earlier last evening at the Ripcord, as we are wont to do. The Ripcord is his gay club of choice. We were celebrating Darwin's visit. He visits a couple of times a year. He has this unusual gift of making straight men go home with him.
All right. Well, okay.
He is so good at flipping men that I call him the skillet.
Oh, okay. Got it. Like a little pancake.
I would like to see what Darwin looks like. I want to understand like this skill
His
that
power.
Yeah.
Jeff sent us a picture of Darwin.
Last night was all about our group, though, so he was well behaved. Not that any straight men come to the Ripcord, because that's very rare. That only happens with men that are confident in their sexuality and are there to support their gay friends on an evening out or something. Straight women are a different story, however.
We feel safe around, believe me, as someone who had a very close friend who was a gay male, we feel much safer around gay men and in gay bars than we do being out by ourselves or with our girlfriends at straight clubs or bars.
He says they're in there kind of quite often with their gay friends, but of course it's never a problem. It's a safe space for them,
Yep.
and they can ogle the half-naked jockstrap wearing hottie muscle guys
Yep.
without fear of being roofied or taken advantage of.
Yep.
I've never seen the word roofied spelled out, so that took me a second.
I had a gay man kiss me in a gay bar once in Virginia.
Was he?
He
What-
came up to me and said, "I'm as gay as the day is long," or something like that, but you're hot. And he like kissed me on the lips, and then like my boobies were out though.
Right, but
I mean, gay men like breasts,
Are
but
you-
not in a sexual way.
oh, like in a chicken type of way?
No, just in a like
breast,
those are-
thighs, and
yeah.
legs? Okay.
Okay.
He says, speaking of last night, your boy kind of got lucky, and it's not what you think.
Oh, you got a pearl. Is this the pearl? Because he sent pictures of the pearls he kept getting in his drinks.
My friends Billy and Terrence, who are husbands, were out and brought me something. Terrence is sort of a chef pitmaster of grilled meats and has his own food truck. Oh man, I would love to know someone with a food truck. Last night he brought me a plate that he had prepared all wrapped up to keep it warm until I got home. Imagine my delight when I opened it at home to find a thick sliced ham, mashed potatoes, dressing with gravy, mac and cheese, and sweet potato souffle.
You got a full like Christmas dinner from this gentleman.
All homemade.
Lovely.
And he devoured it. Today is Saturday. Is today Saturday?
No, when he sent this letter, it was Saturday. You were in St. Pete,
Yeah, that's confused
not
me for
making
a second.
goals for me.
That's right. Today is Saturday, and it's quite a beautiful day, slightly overcast skies and 77 degrees. Weather report with Jeff. I've been sitting out by my pool, drinking my morning latte, and gazing upon my new fence in the backyard that has finally been replaced. I also have a new roof.
Yay, roof watch.
After 6 months of waiting, it finally is complete, and I sort of feel whole again. I can't imagine having a busted roof for 6 months.
Yeah, so for those of you who maybe don't know our back catalog, Jeff lost a portion of his roof during a storm in Houston. Houston got hit really hard this year. Weirdly, though, wasn't a hurricane. I forget what kind of storm it was called.
A derecho.
Yes. And Jeff has been impatiently... That sounded like impatiently, but what I was trying to say is Jeff has been patiently waiting for his new roof. And I'm so excited for you, friend, that you have it.
So he was saying here that the next door neighbor's a contractor and fixed it. And he bid for the fence and the roof for $10,000 lower than any other bid.
Wow.
But
then you have to wait for it.
You have to
right?
wait on his timeline. But he got it done, and it is done well. So he says... he says he wants to go back a couple of episodes and offer thoughts, and that's quite all right with me because he typically comments on everything. So he says, first of all, when you said you met the Sausage Ball King, my mind immediately went to Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Yes.
And I'll leave that to you to figure out why that popped into my head. If you can't figure it out, just Google him. Oh, is this a metaphorical sausage?
I don't know. I'll
Don't
Google.
you do it. Don't
Okay.
multitask.
Oh.
I do not want you to look at Abe's sausage while I'm trying to read to you about Jeff's thoughts here.
Okay.
He says, a new word for me that you've said a couple times, shambolic.
Shambolic, yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Yes,
Like,
it means it's just nonsense.
it's a shamble.
Yeah.
I've never heard this word before. When I Googled it, I wasn't surprised to find out it's primarily British in usage. Well,
Yes.
Jeff, I didn't know that. And I don't remember where I got it from. He says, this also brings to mind a memory of you from the late 80s at camp. This is how I met Jeff at camp, summer camp. Your favorite word one particular summer was the word apoplectic.
God, now I know where the 8-year-old gets it from.
He doesn't say apoplectic.
No, but his vocabulary is so advanced for someone so tiny.
He says, you said it all the time. I'll be honest with you that I never heard of this word before and thought it was something that kids from Miami said. Of
No.
course, I know what it means now, so thank you for being the conduit of 2 words to my vocab database.
Love it.
Yeah, I said the word apoplectic because one of my favorite radio hosts at the time would always accuse people of getting apoplectic, of just getting flustered. And yeah, so shout out to Neil Rogers. All my Miami people from the 80s and 90s know who that is. We talked about brand loyalty.
Yes.
So he tells us his brand loyalty, because I asked you if you had any brand loyalty.
Mhm.
European cars.
Okay.
Typically have only driven European cars, for the most part British, Swedish, and German primarily. Triumph Spitfires, not
Spitfire?
Fars. Swedish Volvos and German BMWs, and currently an Audi. I thought he said, I thought he was going to say Saab. You remember Saabs?
Yes, I do remember. They don't make them anymore.
They
do they?
don't make I always thought that those were such a space age looking car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my neighbors growing up had a Saab, and I'd never seen or heard of a Saab before. And it was white with a maroon interior, and it felt space age to me. Clothes, not so much. I typically have to be happy with what I find that fits since I'm bigger than your average bear. No particular brand loyalty to shoes. However, he's really into Hey Dudes right now.
Yes.
These Hey Dudes that I keep hearing about. His signature style that we talked about before is buffalo plaid, which I wore a buffalo plaid the other day, particularly in red. Okay?
Yours
He's-
is green buffalo plaid. You and Jeff together could make a very charming Christmas card.
We can make an ornament. I'm kind of committed to Android phones. I eschew Apple products of all kinds. Several years ago, students convinced me to get an Apple MacBook, saying that it was much easier and very intuitive. It was not. I earnestly tried to make use of it, but it made absolutely no sense to me. Here's the thing. Nothing is intuitive if you have been using PCs for 35 years and then switch to something that is completely different. Your brain is hardwired into the way that you've done things for 35 years and will not change willingly. I kept it about 6 months before I gave it back to one of my students. You should just have given it to me. You should give it to me. He gave
it back. That means
or
the
no,
student gave.
no, I read it wrong because there's a back in the next sentence. I gave it to one of my students, Dylan. Dylan went on to graduate college, earn a master's immediately, and now she works for Apple.
Dylan has brand loyalty.
That is exactly right. The only other brand that I will go into right now is my favorite brand of soap that I use exclusively. It's French, and it's called Près de Provence.
Okay.
It comes in a host of different luxurious scents. They are a little pricey and run about $8 to $10 for a fairly large bar, but they are triple milled, so they last a really long time. Let me tell you something. I've gotten into buying this soap at this local store. It looks like Neapolitan ice cream because it's got 3 different flavors, layers. I don't even know.
Scents, friend.
Okay, thank you. Strength of clean.
Yeah.
Actually, the brown layer you use to clean one part of your body.
No. It's just it's just for aesthetics. That's all it is.
Okay. Which is a problem because I only now exclusively want to use this soap.
You brought it to the vacation with us.
I did, and we've got like this 100-pack of what is it? Irish Spring.
I put it in the boys' stockings. They were so like, why do I have this? Because your dad has the giant pack and I'm trying to get rid of it.
But like Irish Spring is what I used all growing up.
Yeah.
And so I was just used to that. Then I found this other stuff. Jeff goes on. He says, Marcelo Hernandez is completely adorable.
This is to me because I was talking about Marcelo Hernandez. So cute, right?
Yeah, he says, have you seen the SNL skit with Marcelo, Bad Bunny, and Pedro Pascal? Seek it out.
No, I haven't. I've seen the one with him and Pedro Pascal where Pedro plays his Cuban mom and he brings the girlfriend home, but I've not seen the one with Bad Bunny.
Yes. He says, also, if Bad Bunny and Pedro make it into my Christmas stocking, you may never hear from me again. All right, I'm going to abridge some of this here, but parent and grandparent names. He talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
He says, my mom was very particular about what she wanted to be called. It was always mother, never mama or mommy or whatever. Obviously, I probably called her mommy when I was super little, but it's always been mother and still to this day.
That's very British.
Is it?
I feel like it is.
Like, I don't know, Jeff, I don't know your relationship with your mom. So just outsider looking in, that just feels too formal to me, mother.
My grandmother, my mom's mom was grandmother. Like she wasn't grandma, she was a grandmother. And my mom called her mother. I don't know. Maybe it's just like, but it feels very like blue blood or like very, and that was not my mom's family, but it feels very like old Southern royalty kind of thing.
Yeah, and also reminds me, I don't know if you ever watched the show WKRP in Cincinnati.
I'm aware of the theme song.
So basically, this incompetent general manager runs this radio station, and the incompetent general manager's mom owns it, and she was Mother Carlson.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when I think of mother, kind of that. He goes on to say that his grandparents were always grandmother and granddaddy. So that's also interesting, too. That's got to be a Southern thing.
My dad's dad was granddaddy.
Right, but I'm saying, like, you got mother... Yeah. Right, real formal, real formal sounding, and then daddy, which is not. Now they have great grandchildren. Mom is called Gigi for great grandmother, but dad is still called Pop by everyone.
Like it.
So he says that he would have gone dad for, if he'd had children, Jeff, he would have gone for dad and Poppy for grandchildren, and then Pappy by my incredibly hot Latin boyfriend.
Hi, Papi.
Yes. Also, he says he needed to consume an edible following your description of the Swedish naming conventions.
It's really confusing.
We did this segment where we tell something about ourselves that folks don't know. So Jeff is participating.
Oh, good.
So this week's entry is that he's been to 49 states.
Oh, which one are you missing?
Alaska.
All right, get on it. I want to go on an Alaskan cruise. You want to go with us, Jeff?
He was scheduled to go before the pandemic, and then everything got shut down. So yeah, no, I would love to go back to Alaska. I really enjoyed it. I've said often that I don't like cruises because my experience with cruises has been like the Caribbean, right?
Going to hot places.
Too hot. The Alaska cruise, it's not only is it cold or cool, right? But like it's interesting because it's always light. When I went, it was always light, and that was really interesting to me. I'd go on deck at 4 a.m. or at 3 a.m, and it was still light out.
Yeah,
and I liked that. The idea of being surrounded by pitch black darkness in the middle of the ocean terrifies me.
See, I am afraid of the water being in the water. Like I'm afraid of drowning, but I like cruising a lot, but I've only ever done like the Caribbean, Mexican Riviera. I like the idea of cruising because like you just unpack once and you're there. And my favorite days were the days at sea, like not even the days in port. But since the pandemic, I will admit that it's a bit scary to me because lots of people were stuck on the ship and you can't, they weren't allowed off, and that's frightening. But I want to do an Alaskan cruise, and I want to do the cruise that goes up the eastern seaboard in the fall. So you stop at all of like see the fall foliage kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So we're halfway through Jeff's letter here. I'm going to abbreviate some of it because I want to make sure that we hit some of these interesting points.
Well, he had a lot of catching up to do.
He did have a lot of catching up to do. He did talk about the idea of an internal librarian.
Yeah, I asked you about your internal librarian and if it was organized or if the books were all on the floor.
Right. But when you were asking that question, what we didn't remember is that that he's had to retrain his brain because he was in a pretty horrific accident, right? Six years ago to the day, yesterday, New Year's Eve, he was in a bad car accident. He had to be helicoptered away, like it was really bad, and had a traumatic brain injury. And he was paralyzed. He had to learn how to walk again. And speaking of memories, he says that he doesn't remember the accident.
Well, yeah, I mean, your body or your brain has a way of just protecting you from the horrors of trauma. Yeah,
that's what he says. He says he's really concerned that those memories would come flooding back at a really inopportune moment and cause him to spiral. But he says, my doctor gave me comfort and assurance that the brain has systems in place to prevent that from happening, and I would never remember it. So far, he's right, but just to be safe, I try not to think about that day at all. And so he's saying that his internal librarian took a vacation on that day.
Yeah.
And this goes kind of back to this idea that I'm talking about of dealing with childhood trauma. I was reading that by and large, those memories are still there.
Yeah.
Possibly. But that the way your brain stores them in order to protect you, they might store them in fragments or just have different ways of compartmentalizing them or shutting them off. So there is a good chance in my case that at some point, if I dig deep, that these things will come back. And I don't know if I want them to come back or not because I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I think the difference there is that physiologically Jeff had a brain injury. And so I don't know if there's a difference there. Like his brain was not able to make the memories, whereas you've had the memories, but your body is protecting yourself from them.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, that should be fun. 2025 is going to be fun. Yep. He weighs in on the audiobook thing. You contend that it's reading. I contend that it's not reading, that it can be partaking in literacy, but it's not reading because in my mind, the definition of reading is reading. But he says audiobooks, yes, it's reading.
Thanks, Jeff.
Every librarian I know agrees with him because we've actually discussed this.
Thank you.
So a couple more things from Jeff. He calls me to task because I was talking about actors that didn't get along, and I was talking about the fact that George Peppard, who played Hannibal Smith on the A-Team, did not get along with the rest of the cast, particularly Mr. T. This is what he says. He says, you said that George Peppard starred in Breakfast with Tiffany. Josh, my dear, sweet, heterosexual friend, for the past 40 years, it's Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I love I can't believe I didn't call you on it. I just learned to let things go, Jeff. But that, oh God, that makes me so happy.
He says, please endeavor not to make that mistake again. You are better than that. So he calls out a couple people who didn't, or some other groups that didn't get along. I think we knew about Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall on Sex and the City.
Yep, that was Kim Cattrall did not even participate in what was it? And All at Once or whatever that thing was that got real bad because Chris Noth apparently turns out is a horrible person.
Yeah. He says another famous pair was Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. Crawford was always less openly hesitant than Davis, whose iconic burns include the classic Crawford slept with every male star at MGM except Lassie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Last thing from Jeff, we talked about poinsettias being from Mexico. He says it was actually named after a South Carolinian Joel Roberts Poinsett. He was the first ambassador to Mexico and happened upon the plant in 1828 during his tenure. Originally from Charleston, he had a farm in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's really interesting. Did you say ambassador? Because I heard he was the first bastard from South Carolina and Mexico.
I mean, I make no claims about either his parentage or his attitude about life in general, but I said
That's what
ambassador.
I heard. That's a really interesting fact, though. Thank you, Jeff, for knowing that and sharing it with us.
So there you go. That's Jeff's Peace and Cookies for today and for the new year.
No one likes to be told what to do.
And now is the time in the program where we tell you what to do. Amanda, what should we do?
So I'm going to make a couple of very specific to St. Petersburg references. If you happen to be near there or you're traveling there, there's a couple places that I think are worth your time in downtown. So the first is a creperie called the Wooden Rooster. It's like a rustic kind of, breakfast vibe with wooden picnic tables and really yummy coffee, but their the specialization are crepes, but you can get whatever it is as a crepe. You can get it as a breakfast sandwich, and the portions are gigantic. The prices are reasonable, and it was very good food. I
gotta make a note. Did you know that the person who opened the Wooden Rooster was named Hiram Woodcock, and he wanted to name it after himself, but he figured the wooden cock wouldn't be a good thing, so he called it the Wooden Rooster.
And you made this nonsense up.
Hiram Woodcock. Look it up.
You've made this nonsense up.
Look it up.
Okay. Why did you look it up?
I'm curious about things.
Okay. And then the other place I'm going to recommend is quite possibly my new favorite place in the world. It's called Book and Bottle. It is a bookstore with a wine bar or a wine bar with books. Either way, and it's quite lovely. I had a really lovely white wine that it was a French wine. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It was a varietal I've never had before, and bought a book, and you can sit, and they also have coffee and whatever. And it's small, but it was very, very lovely. So you can bookend your day that way. No pun intended.
All right, my recommendation is very simple. I recommend that you never ever order a fried fish sandwich. Never do it. Fried fish sandwiches, especially if it's not fish pulp like you would perhaps find at a fast food restaurant, but if it's a fish fillet and they tell you we're going to fry it and we're going to put it on a sandwich, don't do it. Don't do it. First of all, the fish doesn't need to have the bread and the tomato and the lettuce. The fish, if it's cooked well, seasoned well, it should be good on its own. But second of all, when you order these things, the fish fillet will invariably flake apart and be like impossible to eat within the constraints of this bread. So you're just going to be frustrated. Now, if it's cooked badly and it's really rubbery and it stays intact as you bite into it, as you try to chew through it, then that's a different problem. So go out there as quick as possible, and please don't order a fried fish fillet sandwich.
Just get fish and chips.
Also, don't look up Hiram Woodcock on the internet.
God, you're a mess.
Well, Amanda Wilson, that's all there is. There is no more of 2024.
You rhymed.
I did. Does anybody want a peanut? So there we go. That was a heck of a year, that 2024. We venture into 2025, and I don't know what it's going to bring.
I do.
I can't worry about all the things that are happening around the world, the globe, all these things that I have zero effect on.
No.
We like to say that, I gotta be aware of all the things that are happening. And if I'm aware of it, then something good will happen. I get that, and I don't want to be ignorant, but damn, I don't have the emotional capital to I just got to deal with what's happening inside this little bald man, and then the people who are within my sphere of influence. I feel like if humanity, all of us, we checked ourselves, we looked around, and we said, okay, what can I actually do?
Yeah.
Who can I actually influence? If we were to all take a realistic look at that, then we'd have a whole lot less trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We just would.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So do that.
I also do know one thing that this year is going to bring.
You're pregnant?
No, we're all done with that. No, this is the year in which I turned 50.
Oh, we're going to have a party?
This is a year-long celebration. Please commence.
Please. No. I'm not ready.
Commence to celebrate me.
Well, I mean, I celebrate you every day, dear.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So hopefully your 2025 will be filled with laughter, with love, and with you doing everything you can to make yourself a healthier you. Because guess what? You being healthy makes the world a better place.
Says the man who's about to embark on a couch to 5K training regimen with me next week.
Oh, shit.
Go be kind.
Bye.
Bye. Go be nice. Oh, no. Stop that. I have to say kind.
It's rolling, baby.
No, go back.
Just re-record it and I'll cut it.
You won't, though. And this will all be in there because you'll forget. Go be kind.
Bye.
Bye.